Croatia are the fourth team to qualify for the last 16 of the 2018 FIFA World Cup. There is confirmation of the group table, and that star beside Croatia's name means they are through. 6 points out of 6. Argentina's fate is now out of their hands. Their final game is against Nigeria. Of course, it's Nigeria against Iceland tomorrow. Croatia finished the group against Iceland as well, but a hugely significant night. I think, Liam, beforehand, we have to give massive credit to Croatia because you were going for them big time, and this really does back up your point about them being dark horses.
Yeah, well, they're a big physical side, but a huge amount of skill in it, led by the guy we just saw there, Modric. He was absolutely fantastic. You got Rakitic at Barcelona as well. You got Mandzukic. They have real quality throughout the side, and they were a real team from start to finish, where Argentina, they turned out to be a shambles in that second half.
But Damien, that'll be all the headlines tomorrow. Messi's picture will be on the front and the back of every newspaper around the world.
No doubt he'll get the blame. I've learned as well, don't let your heart ever rule your head. I thought at the start of the competition Argentina might win the tournament. Couldn't be further from the truth. They're as bad an Argentina team as I've seen. They were wide open all night from start to finish, disjointed, 3-4-3. Tagliafico, a centre-half, he's a left-back. The two wing-backs are wingers. Wide open, as I said, from start to finish. And even if you just look through the teams at the end there's probably, obviously Messi, maybe Aguero. There's two players that would get in the Croatian team. Otherwise, listen, sometimes they say don't look too much into the paper, but Croatia are stronger, and they are a dark horse, like Liam says. They're just so well organised. There's such a good game plan. The goal came from pressing Caballero, like we said at half-time. Caballero, awful. You know, Sampaoli, I've been a big fan of him throughout his career, but just the way he set up his team, everything tonight. First time he's played 3-4-3, I thought Argentina were awful.
Here in this studio on the south side of Dublin, Eamon, because, you know, Spain were the big name casualties in the first round 4 years ago. Argentina, their fate is hanging by a thread now.
It is, yeah. I mean, they need to beat Nigeria, and they want the other teams to draw. It's a bad night for Argentina. It's not the first they've had. They left players on the bench. Dybala, in particular, one of the best young players in Europe, playing for Juventus. Di Maria, you know, a top player, not on the pitch. The coach, Sampaoli, you know, he coached Chile to win the Copa America in 2016. He has a track record, but that was a shambles. And the first goal, Caballero, you know, we've seen him, and we've seen him at Manchester City, and this messing around at the back. He did it in the first half and got away with it. But give a goal like that away. But the person I feel most sorry for is Lionel Messi, because people are going to extrapolate from this tournament and his appearance in it as to whether he or Ronaldo, you know, is the best player in the world, and make unfavourable comparisons, perhaps. That's one thing I don't think he'll worry too much about. But in his home country, where Maradona, who we saw in cutaways there during the game, Maradona is still remembered as the great player. So I think they're a poor team. They were made poorer by the management's selection to start the game. And I think Liam is right. By a very good team. The opponents were very good. Croatia are a good team. And Liam was right to say, and I wouldn't have necessarily agreed with him before the match started, that they were dark horses for the tournament. When you look at Germany, look at Brazil, you know, the giants, look at Spain, struggling to beat Iran last night. So I think Liam is spot on.
And Croatia, as you mentioned, giants, they're huge, physically very imposing, powerful team. Liam, just come back to Argentina for a moment, because, you know, Messi will be the poster boy of this defeat and all that, but how much of the blame do you lay at the door of the coach? And he's changed so much. Like, you go back in a 7-month period, he used 43 players for Argentina, had 6 different tactical formations, and he's confused everything, and, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater and all that stuff. He's just changed too much.
Yeah, he looked confused himself. He has a real good players up front, you know, but he never seemed to be able to find the positions for them, you know. And then the guys from in behind in midfield, like Mascherano playing against Modric, it was like, you know, a very bad player playing against a great player. Yeah. And they didn't seem to have anybody to get the forwards into the game, whereas if they had a player like Luka Modric in their side, it could change things completely. So I think he maybe had too many options and didn't know how to get the best out of the forward line. But looking at Otamendi again, like the indiscipline. What summed up Argentina today was the indiscipline of everybody, and even the coach, I think, looks an indisciplined guy. He's chopping and changing all the time. He doesn't know what he wants. On the field of play, they were vicious. But the Croats stood up to them, and they were equally as tough. They lose their heads, Argentina. There's no cool minds in there. And I felt sorry, as Eamon said, I felt sorry for Messi because he looked a lost soul out there today.
Could he not have, you know, because he is the leader, he's the best player in the world, you know, when that sort of stuff is going on, like, I know it's hard to take control of it, but did you expect to see him do that, or is it just too hard? I think the pressure
is just too much for the guy. And at Barcelona, he's at ease. He's at ease with the way they play. He's at ease with his teammates. He's comfortable. He's in a comfort zone at Barcelona. And he has been absolutely magnificent year in, year out. For Argentina now, for the last, what, 3 World Cups? Yeah. Is it 3 now he's played in there? Yeah. He looks like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders.
See, we only see the shambles.
Actually, it might be 4, sorry.
We only see the shambles in the 90 minutes on the pitch. But you can bet your bottom dollar that the stuff off the pitch, you know, the training is probably wrong, probably little cliques around the place. And that all manifests itself in a poor performance, but it's all kinds of stuff. And we had it with the Irish team when they were travelling steerage and the suits were up in first class. Keane made a big issue of it. But there's all these kinds of things go on as well. And even before you go on the pitch, your morale can be sapped in a messy organisation. And Maradona looms over everything too. He'll be making incendiary comments.
Well, he did in the build-up to this about the coach saying he shouldn't be allowed back into the country.
Yeah, well, all of that feeds in.
Yeah, they struggled in the qualifiers, didn't they? They really
massively.
Did.
But look, like they had 3 different coaches.
They've struggled to get out of South America, and let's face it, they should be with Brazil. It should be a foregone conclusion that they're out and up and running. Well, they're at the World Cup, but they struggled. And so this is no surprise.
There have been problems with the federation, and various players have made comments about officials and stuff like that. A lot of that seemed to kind of calm down. 3 different coaches in the qualification. Like, should we be that surprised? If you go back to the Spanish match, what was the score on that? You talked about it before.
They got beat
6-1. Conceded 6 goals.
6-1,
you know, I know Messi didn't play. He came into the dressing room that night, but like, were the warning signs there of this kind of a collapse?
I think if you look at the squad list, the warning signs are there. Like Liam's saying there, Argentina should be cruising the South American qualifying with Brazil. Yeah, the name, you think Argentina, wow, but like I said, if I'm to pick a starting 11 out of the 2 teams tonight, 9 of them are Croatian. So, like the quality of players that I keep going on about, the 2 wing-backs, the 2 in midfield, Mascherano, like he's at 34, nearly 35. Like, I think the lad said his legs are gone. Perez, like he's been in and out of the team. He's not going to get you playing. When you think of Argentina, you think of like a total footballing team, don't you? Whereas they couldn't string, I don't know, 5-10 passes together. And then Messi gets hammered for dropping too deep. But he's dropping deep because he's trying to get in the ball, because they can't get the ball to him. So it's a catch-22. But he'll get the blame. He got the blame in 2010, but nobody mentions that Maradona couldn't set up a good team in 2010. 2014, he got them to the final single-handedly, so he did his stuff. But this time, like, I just look at the squad. Sorry, Dar, but starting 11 tonight, it's poor. It's very poor.
No, but there's a lot of, and you know, the players on the bench. You mentioned about Dybala.
They're all
forwards.
But
it's imbalanced. The balance of it is wrong.
They're all forwards. The midfield was non-existent. They didn't get playing. They didn't keep the ball. When Messi's playing for Barcelona, the Barcelona midfield players keep the ball for 8-9 passes. They get the other team running around, and then they isolate Messi one-on-one, and then he gets the ball, and then he can do his stuff. But it doesn't happen tonight.
But that's the coach's fault, Eamon, is it? The way the whole thing is set up.
Well, like,
if he can't get the balance right. Like, I'll give you a quote about, this is from Sampaoli from World Soccer. He was interviewed and asked why he hasn't got Dybala in the team, because he hasn't been in it. He said, when I first called him in, we did so because we considered him a top player. That's fair enough. Excuse me at home for reading this out, but it is important. Over time, throughout our time working with him, either we didn't know how best to use him, unlike at his club, or he didn't adapt to our idea of play. Now, when your man was managing Chile, Sampaoli, excuse me, it was all this high-octane, high-energy stuff, Sanchez and all those guys. But, like, Argentina don't play high-octane football.
But it comes down to the players at your disposal. You can play high-octane pressing football. You've got Sanchez, Vidal is another Chilean player. Those guys can do it. These guys can't. Mascherano's playing in China now. You know,
he couldn't run.
No, and you wouldn't expect him to run. He ended up at Barcelona in the back four. So, I, say of that coach, he hasn't got the players. In the South American section, Uruguay finished second to Brazil. Brazil won it by 10 clear points. I saw Uruguay. We've seen them twice now. They're pretty ordinary. Really ordinary.
They're into the last 16.
Yeah, but I think it underlines the fact that South America has been traditionally, where the great players have come from. They're not there anymore. That's the problem. They haven't got, if that's the best they've got in Argentina, look at Brazil.